Welcome into the San Francisco 49ers Report. Chase Sr. hanging out here with you. Hope everybody out there is having a fantastic Tuesday. And as always, thanks for all of your support in watching the show. We have some breaking news that I want to get to that does involve the San Francisco 49ers indirectly, as Davante Adams has been released by the New York Jets, and now the Niners could show some interest. And get this. The Jets gave up a third-round pick in the NFL draft to try to team Davante Adams back up with Aaron Rodgers, and he played 11 games for New York. That is why, ladies and gentlemen, bad organizations stay bad. There is a plus to this, though, for New York, as the Jets do save $29.9 million in cap space, as Adams had no guaranteed money left on his deal. Now, some of you watching the show might be saying, this is a rumor. Chase, why are you talking about it? Because I believe that the Niners' interest is going to be real after San Francisco traded away Deebo Samuel. They now have a need at that wide receiver position. But Davante Adams has also said that he wants to play for the Niners. And according to Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network, he had a busy week last week, especially at that Starbucks alongside Jordan Schultz. He reports this: while the assumption has been that Davante Adams wants to play with Aaron Rodgers, and historically that has been the plan, my understanding is the pool of being on the West Coast for him is very real. And this is after a couple of weeks ago we talked right here on this show about Adams' interest in playing for the 49ers. And we talked about that because at the time, that was after Deebo Samuel made that trade request. Obviously, he hadn't been dealt by that point. He did get dealt on Saturday to the Commanders in exchange for a fifth-round pick. Also, according to a multitude of reports from the NFL Combine last week in Indianapolis, the Niners are also taking calls on Brandon Aiyuk. So if they traded away Deebo Samuel already, if they're thinking about trading away Brandon Aiyuk, they can't go into 2025 with just Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Cowing, and of course Jauan Jennings. They would have to make a move at that wide receiver spot. And Adams, he has grandparents who live on the West Coast. They're afraid to fly. That's part of the reason why he wanted to play with the Las Vegas Raiders. We know that that move did not work out for him. The move to the Jets did not work out for him. But as he enters the back nine of his career, he clearly wants to play on the West Coast preferably, and that could allow his family to watch some of his games. He does have some NorCal ties as well. He is from Palo Alto, went to high school in that area, went to Fresno State, also in the NorCal area, and I think that that's of note, and it's obviously pretty interesting. There is still a possibility that Brandon Aiyuk gets traded. So San Francisco, if they're thinking about their team-building strategy, right? I know John Lynch said we want to get younger. That wouldn't happen with Davante Adams, who's on the bad side of 30 for NFL players. But he also mentioned that we've been one of the highest spending teams in the NFL over the last several years. We need to reset the salary cap a little bit. Well, Brandon Aiyuk is making $30 million average annual value. Deebo Samuel was right around $25 million, and the Commanders are taking on all that 2025 salary. Adams, at this point of his career, if he wants to play on the West Coast, he's limiting his destinations to one coast of the country, right? And he's not going to ask for a ton of money if he also wants to go to a winner, and he's made so much money up to this point. And there's been some chatter, and I was hearing this at the NFL Combine as well, that Davante Adams could be in the market for a deal that pays him about $20 million per season. That's less than Deebo. That's less than Aiyuk. And I think that Davante Adams can still play, and he's a wide receiver who possesses skills that the Niners are looking for. And I know that there's been a lot of talk that Adams is cooked, he can't play, he's washed. It's just not true. Look at these numbers here. When he was with the Raiders, bad quarterback play. When he was with the Jets, I'd say Aaron Rodgers played mediocre, but he still put up excellent numbers. With Las Vegas in 2024, he was averaging just under 70 receiving yards per game. With the Jets, that went up to 77.5 receiving yards per game. And in 11 games with New York, look at the pace that he was on here. In just 11 games with the Jets, he tallied 67 catches for 854 yards and 7 touchdowns. In his final 5 games, he really started to turn it on with his running mate in Aaron Rodgers, one of his best friends. 36 catches in those 5 games for 510 yards and 5 touchdowns. And so you look at the numbers combined between the Jets and the Raiders. If he were to have played a full season, he was on pace for 1,500 plus receiving yards. Played those 3 games with the Raiders, 27 grabs, 18 catches, 209 yards, 11.5 yards per catch, 1 touchdown. But the Raiders, revolving door at the quarterback spot. He goes to New York, and you could see that kinship on the field working with Aaron Rodgers. It resulted in some pretty good production. And in those 11 games, he was targeted a lot. 114 targets in 11 games is crazy. 67 catches, 854 yards, 12.7 yards per catch, and 7 touchdowns. Again, if you translate that to a full season, it's one of the top wide receivers in the game. And what happened in the Super Bowl against Kansas City with Deebo Samuel? Couldn't beat man coverage. The Chiefs made it a point to play press man and jam him at the line. And Deebo is not a wide receiver with the route running and the footwork to succeed against press man. Niners found that out the hard way. But Davante Adams is that. He is a complete wideout, whereas Deebo is more of a Swiss Army knife. He's more of a diverse weapon who can be utilized in a variety of ways. And the ways that Kyle Shanahan utilized Deebo, Davante Adams is not capable of that. But the Niners are looking for wide receivers like Brandon Aiyuk, like Davante Adams, who have every single route to their route tree, who can beat press man, who can beat zone, and just give Brock Purdy a complete skill set to work with. And I think that's part of the reason why the Niners fell in love with Ricky Pearsall coming out of Florida. Because what does Ricky Pearsall have to his game? Footwork, route running, slippery in the open field, can be a vertical threat, has some decent long speed, can play inside, outside, where I think the Niners started to realize Deebo is limited. Last year he was overweight. He's declined since that all-pro season in 2021. And even though Davante Adams is a little bit of an older player, I still think that he can be highly productive on this Niners team. That could be with Brandon Aiyuk. That could be without Brandon Aiyuk. But in Aiyuk, Davante Adams 1-2 punch at that wide receiver spot. If Aiyuk can come back off that knee injury with Jauan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, and Jacob Cowing, that turns into one of the top wide receiver cores in the NFL. And what I think is very impressive about what Adams has been able to do the last 3 years is that he's been able to do it with inconsistent to bad and mediocre quarterback play. Year 1, he teamed back up with Derek Carr, who he played with at Fresno State, but Derek Carr didn't play great that year. Davante Adams did. Still had 100 catches for 1,500 yards and 14 touchdowns. The following year, Raiders didn't have a quarterback. Davante Adams still had, in 17 games played, more than 100 catches once again, more than 1,100 yards, and 8 touchdowns. And then last year, with the combination of quarterbacks with the Raiders and Gardner Minshew was not playing well, in addition to playing with Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, there was once again inconsistent quarterback play and not a consistent presence at that position. And Adams still had a pretty damn good season, where in 14 games, he still surpassed more than 1,000 receiving yards on 85 catches and had 8 total touchdowns. The drops are a little bit of a concern. Last 3 years, 3, 7, 8, and 6. I think that's uncharacteristic of Davante Adams because throughout his career, he's proven to be a sure-handed wideout. So what say you? Should the Niners go after Davante Adams? Let me know down in the comment section right now. This will be the pinned comment. S for sign or P for pass. And I pose this. Would you like this wide receiver group right here? I think that you can win with this wide receiver room if the Niners do not trade away Brandon Aiyuk, and they could end up wanting to trade him to clear some more cap. And again, Davante Adams is not going to demand $25 to $30 million. I think at this point of his career, he wants to win. He wants to play on the West Coast, and he knows that he's not going to break the bank, nor does he need to. But I think it's hard for the Niners to trade Aiyuk, given that salary and the contract that he just signed and the fact that he completely shredded his knee last year. So I would move forward with this wide receiver room, and I think the Niners would be able to have some really good production in the pass game, and I think that, frankly, Brock Purdy would be a big fan of this. Aiyuk, Adams, Pearsall, Jennings, Jacob Cowing. You can win a lot of games with those players as your top 5 wideouts. This 49ers polo, by the way, thanks to our friends at Fanatics, is on sale. Incredible deal. It was $80. It's now $43. You can find it at chatsports.com/49polo. I will put that link down below in the show notes. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button right here on the San Francisco 49ers Report for the best daily and year-round coverage of the Niners.